Just exhausted.
PTSAs.
Oh, wow.
Try again.
No, sound good? Welcome to the March 5th regular board meeting of Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. The meeting is hereby called to order. Will you all please stand with me and join in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Andrews.
Present.
Vice President Mason.
Present.
Director Lassane.
Present?
Director Mitchell.
Present finally.
Director Nankar. Student Representative Tran.
Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Cohn, will you please introduce this afternoon's agenda?
I'd be happy to. Consistent with the plans established at your 2018 Summer Planning Workshop, tonight's agenda contains several elements related to both the district's strategic plan and the board's annual goals. There is a segment this evening for routine business, a segment for recognition, a segment for board comments, a segment for the superintendent's reports, one for strategic progress reporting, a segment for board comments, one for new business, and one for upcoming agenda items. Following the publication of the agenda, a very few changes were or will be made to it. Item 711, approval of school calendar 2018-19 revision 1, was revised to correct a prior action date reference that was in error. Thank you, Director Andrews, for the close reading. Item 9.1, the superintendent's report will be updated during the meeting as is customary for our regular meetings. And item 13.4, approval of Longfellow and building surplus materials, I should say annex building surplus materials, was updated with additional reference materials, some uploaded, some linked prior to the meeting, primarily responding to director inquiries and requests. So the agenda itself is as it was published to you with those slight corrections. No other changes were made. The board certainly may elect to change the order of business by a majority vote of the members. And note, please, that this is not the point in your agenda where you requested items be removed from the consent agenda. So the agenda is presented to you for your approval.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda with small corrections?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Mitchell to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries, and the agenda is adopted. Move on to section 5.0, recognition. This afternoon, we're honored to recognize one of our essential strategic partners in our educational mission, the PTSA Council.
It is with great pride that I recognize the Everett PTSA Council and the individual PTSAs of our district. I'm going to speak for a minute, and when I'm done, I'll invite all of the representatives here today to come up for a small token of our appreciation and I believe a picture. Our PTSAs are made up of individuals, parents, grandparents, school staff, and community members. All of these individuals desire to make our schools the best possible places they can be for our students. There are currently 5,140 such individuals in our district. That number surpasses the previous year by 19 and is only 10 shy of this year's goal. So if anyone in our audience has not yet joined, I'm sure we could hook you up with an opportunity here. There are 25 local PTSAs, soon to be 26 with Tambark Creek, one special education group, and a council that provides governance, support, and training to the local groups. Over the past year, the PTAs have sponsored roughly 250 events. They've provided almost $300,000 in grants and funding, and they've sponsored programs and events to the tune of $200,000. They recognize and appreciate staff, and they do a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes to guarantee that the schools have the tools necessary for success. When a PTA member sees a problem, they fix it. Just a few examples of that. At one school, Jefferson Elementary, they noticed that students were hungry and didn't have access. There's no food banks down there. The PTSA hosted a food drive and set up a local food backpack program and provided families in need with weekly food. Many schools have done this. At another school, they needed rewards for their positive behavior intervention program. So at that school, PTSA members show up each week and they pop popcorn and they distribute it for free to kids who have earned that on a weekly basis. This one is my personal favorite. The PTSA runs a shoe fund, so any of our needy students that need shoes can get them, but Payless Shoes has always been the provider of that. And recently we heard that the Payless Shoes was going out of business. So worried that these shoe fund gift cards they had purchased would go to waste, and to ensure that future needs would be addressed before the store closed, what would you do? You would take your cards down, you would go buy every shoe they have in child size in stock and pack it to your house and store them until you find the student with the right shoe size has a need. So as you can see, our PTSAs go above and beyond. They raise money, they provide support, they work hard, and they do whatever it takes to ensure student success. Each individual alone contributes to the collective success of the PTSA in our district. In appreciation and in recognition of their efforts and accomplishment, I would like to ask each member to come forward, and they're going to receive a bouquet of tulips and a journal that appropriately states, "Alone we are smart, together we are awesome." Thanks to each of you for working together and being truly awesome. Would you please come forward and receive your gift? And then you can stand right up there and thank you very much.
I will take a picture. I'm gonna take a picture.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Don't you think we should get one?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to sneak you.
Turning to the side. We're not trying to
Oh my God.
Pam and Caroline. And Carol and Tracy. It's my OSHA ladder. I still can't get you till, gotta get in there. How about over here in front of Carol and Caroline and okay, let's see, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Me do. I have to do two.
Okay.
True, true. Nice.
Thank you, Sally, for that wonderful recognition, and thank you to all our PTSA members. We'll move on to section 6.0, public comments. The school board sets aside time during each regular meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and want to hear and understand the perspectives you bring to the table. Dr. Cohn, are there any requests for public comments?
Yes, there are.
So on behalf of the board, I welcome you to this meeting. Our school board meetings are designed to conduct district business in public. We welcome ideas and opinions presented in that same spirit. I will share how this portion of the meeting is conducted. The superintendent will call you to the podium to speak in the order in which you signed up this afternoon. Each speaker has 3 minutes for their comments. All comments are recorded and are made available for future viewing by the board and the public. And this public comment time in the agenda is for the board to listen to what you have to say. It is not a time for debate or discussion, and board members will not respond to individual comments during this public comment time. As president, I have the responsibility to ensure the meeting and conversations are orderly, productive, and respectful, and I appreciate your cooperation in helping me carry out that responsibility. Dr. Cohn?
All righty. We're going to go ahead and call folks in order. When I call your name, would you please come forward to the lectern, and you will see a green light. It will signify the start of your 3 minutes. The yellow is a 30-second warning, and the red indicates the expiration of your time. First speaker this evening is Patrick Hall. He would like to speak to the board about Longfellow and is a resident of the district.
Hello. The proposed decision to conduct a salvage operation of the Longfellow building would be a premature and irreversible act that would essentially sabotage the building for any future use. There is no urgency whatsoever to do this at this time. Therefore, it should be postponed until a final decision is made as to what to do with the building. Now, attached to the agenda today was a presentation about Longfellow, which I assume you're going to see later. It includes some scary-looking financial figures and some even scarier-looking pictures that makes the place look like a haunted house. About the pictures, I myself got to see the building last year on a tour, and I can tell you that these pictures represent the worst corners of a building that is far from being the worst thing that's ever been rehabilitated. Now, a couple of years ago, when the McMinimans Elks Temple was purchased in Tacoma, there was literally water running down the interior stairs. And yet next month, it will open as a grand hotel that will be an economic engine for downtown Tacoma. Now, about the numbers, when you see these, keep in mind that the $30,000 to $35,000 a year that it takes to maintain the building would buy you exactly one of the 65 parking spaces that the district proposes to build by demolishing the school. So even if you don't care about historic preservation, financially, this just doesn't make any sense. Now, I understand that something has to be done about Longfellow, but the only solution promoted by the district is the most expensive, unimaginative, economically unproductive, and financially illogical decision conceivable. There are many, what really troubles me about this is the fact that there has been, the district appears to be making these decisions in a vacuum, and there has been no public engagement on this issue whatsoever. There are many in the community who would love to contribute their expertise and their fresh ideas to solving the problem. What I would like to propose is that we form a committee that would consist of members both from the district and from the community to take a focused approach to solving this problem. This would give the community a chance to have a say in it, and it would also give the district further options other than just demolition or doing nothing. It could also potentially save your students millions of dollars. So please, make the right decision, and if you salvage anything today, let it be your relationship with the community. Thanks.
The next speaker is Carrie Quas, and she is a resident of the district and would like to speak to you about the Longfellow Building.
Hello, my name is Kari Quas. It's my mom who was on the heart of the front page of the the Everett Herald this weekend. And this week, I went into my basement and I found a scrapbook of my mom's from South Junior, indicating that she was one of 49 students from Longfellow who are going to go to South Junior that next year. The fact that I have these things shows, I think, the history of Everett and the importance of Everett's history. Buildings like Longfellow bring back fond memories of times when they went to school, when they learned to respect their elders. My mother ended up, teacher photos, teaching at Longfellow in the 60s. So I don't have children. I pay taxes in this district because I believe in education. I believe that the students here should receive good education. I also believe in conservation. I work for the Snohomish Conservation District. That building there has an incredible view of the Cascades. To tear it down and put in parking, which does nothing for anybody, but puts a place for a car, of which we have too many. That's a whole other thing too. But give it as a place for somebody to live, or give someone the opportunity to make that call. I don't want to see my taxpayer dollars going to a flat surface. I would rather see it go to something that makes sense for the community and for people who live here, and for my mom's cousin Jan, who was also in the article, who remembers fondly going to Longfellow and wanted to stand on the steps again to show, oh, here I am grown up. This is where I live. This is important to me. So I would encourage you to let it go to somebody else. Give it a new life. Restoration, preservation, these things are important. Community is important too. So I look like her. I don't teach, but I teach in other ways. And so I would appreciate your consideration in not turning this building over to concrete. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
The third speaker this evening is Tyler Rourke. Tyler's a resident of the district and would like to speak to you about Longfellow.
Good afternoon. Thanks for letting me speak. Normally I'd be at work right now, so I feel fortunate to have the time to be here. I'm going to be honest, I don't have any sentimental attachment to the Longfellow building. I'm not part of Historic Everett. I'm not like a big proponent of saving it, but I do care about this community, and for a couple of reasons I figured it was worthwhile to share my opinion that I do think it's worth at least taking another look at it. I liked Patrick's suggestion of forming a committee with the community. For one thing, I think we have a lot of engaged citizens who do care about the building for sentimental reasons and other reasons. And we're fortunate to have them. I think having that that drive, and I don't know if do you all want to raise your hands and like indicate if you're here because you care about the Longfellow building. I mean, this is pretty incredible to have this many people here today, you know, in the middle of an afternoon, expressing their care for this historic place. And with regard to history in general, I find that every year that I live, I gain a deeper respect for things that were in place before I was born, you know. So I see, like, on, I think it's Memorial Day, quite often a B-25 flies over and does a wave over the cemetery just over here, and that's really close to my house. vacuum tubes. I think vacuum tubes are really cool, and nobody knows what they are anymore, you know? And, you know, I think in analogies, and I think that if the school district were getting rid of a truckload of vacuum tubes, I would be chomping at the bit to try to save them. I don't have a use. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but, you know, they're worth keeping. They're not made anymore. They're a part of history that isn't going to come around again. That building is one that will never be built again. The style, the materials, it's just not going to happen. And so I totally agree that we don't need to be in a rush to just get rid of it. Additionally, I can't stand surface parking. And again, this comes back to me caring about the community, but surface parking is terrible for walkability. You know, if you have a big parking lot, nobody wants to walk the length of the parking lot next to the parking lot. People like to be where there is something next to them. Ideally in like a downtown, they like to have shops, they like to have doors, windows to look into and out of. And that building is kind of an anchor for the neighborhood. It's something that people enjoy seeing and would like to continue walking by. So I'd just like to see the school district and the community get creative and find a way to turn it into something. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to have the funding. We don't have to have the idea today. But as long as that building still stands, there's opportunity. And I think it's a good opportunity for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
The fourth speaker this evening is Megan Dunn. Megan's a resident of the district and a parent of a student and would like to speak to you about the Longfellow building.
Hi, Megan Dunn. I'm a parent of two students, actually, at Evergreen Middle School. And I just want to clarify, I'm wearing my PTA advocate button, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an individual. I live in the Lowell neighborhood, and I live in a historic home. It was built in 1892, and we took on that responsibility and knew that it would have its quirks and that it was a big responsibility to purchase an older home and to be willing to take care of part of our history. I think it's really important that we maintain our historical structures and that we keep them intact. And as Patrick mentioned, it's you have another option here. You can decide to just wait to make this decision and not demolish the building or not salvage the building, and potentially have a committee to come together to look at possible other solutions for this historic building. So, you know, when you decided to sell the property from the previous administrative building near 52nd Street, you looked at beyond the bottom line. Like, you sold it to the Y because they provide wraparound services, they have a benefit to the community. And so I think when you're thinking about the Longfellow, think about more than just the budget, but the benefits and the quality and the value that our historic structures bring. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is Claire Griffith. Claire is a resident of the district and wishes to speak to you about the Longfellow building.
I live half a block away. And I want to tell you that we really value this building. It's beautiful. And when I came in here today, I saw this sign that said, "Our students will lead and shape the future." And it would be awful if the children didn't value the past, because everything will eventually go. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is, I'm going to pull one aside because it seems not to be a district resident. I'm going to check this just a moment. So we're going to move to Larry O'Donnell, who is a resident of the district, was an employee of the district, is grandparents of students in the district, and he's here to speak with you about the Longfellow building.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. I'd like to take just a minute before I talk specifically about Longfellow, just about my background and relationship to the Everett Public Schools. I started at Old Jefferson School, so I'm not a Longfellow graduate, in the fall of 1942, and I've been around here ever since. I became an employee of the district in 1959, retired in 1989, then did some consulting and volunteer work for the district, and along the way wrote a book that was in conjunction with the centennial of the district called Everett School District the First 100 Years. As was mentioned, I'm a grandparent, a great-grandparent. I've been a parent, grandparent, and now great-grandparent of students in the Everett Public Schools. And I'm really proud of the association I've had with the schools, and have to say no institution has been more important in my life than the Everett Public Schools. And in a broader sense, I want to commend you people, because Everett's always been a good school district, and that continues today with an excellent superintendent, excellent school board, and excellent staff and supportive parents, all of whom are dedicated to service to kids. School boards have to wrestle with tough issues, and you've got a tough one here with Longfellow, because it's not simple, it is complex. But I just want to cut to the chase as far as my remarks. I have said privately a number of times, I'd like to see it saved. I just want to say publicly for the first time, I think saving Longfellow School is simply the right thing to do. Why? Because history is important. This building's an important link in our local history. The school for people that came out of this community like Henry M. Jackson, Stan Borson, and many others. And I don't have any grand plan for the building, but I just think that there's got to be a future for it somehow, somewhere. I don't have any great idea I'm going to share with you, but I do want to conclude with just a couple of little stories. I've been involved with demolition in the schools, and I can remember standing in front of Everett High School after we had completed the remodel and restoration, and watching the annex go down. Probably the most unpopular building in the history of this community. I cheered along with everybody else. In the fall of 1964, I had a different experience watching old Jefferson School go down, a stately old brick building that really there was nothing wrong with it, but the district sold it because a new post office was going to be put on that site. Altogether different experience. Standing there with a lump in my throat, thinking, this isn't right. It wasn't right, and it still isn't, over a half a century later. And I want to emphasize that Longfellow is in the Jefferson category, not the Everett High Annex category. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is Dave Ramstead. Dave is a resident of the district and would like to speak with you about your vote on salvage contractors.
Madam Chair, Dr. Cohn, school board members, my name is Dave Ramstead, and I was born in a building 1 mile from this building, Providence Hospital. And the Ramstead name has been involved with the Everett schools and Everett community and churches since 1910, with Everett schools as students, as teachers, as custodians, as mechanics, and as taxpayers. So I am proud of my Everett High School and Everett education in the entire city of Everett. I'm not going to live anywhere else. This is the best place in the world. Choosing a surplus contractor is universally understood to be the beginning of total demolition. As you return to your safe homes and warm beds this evening, please consider this. It is sinful and immoral to destroy a building, any building, even one as historic and gorgeous as Longfellow, when we have many of our fellow citizens outside all night, all winter long, winter after winter. The building could be shelter in a week for people who are probably sleeping on this hillside tonight or anywhere along Broadway. You'll see them as you go home. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your comments.
And the next speaker is Ed Peterson. Ed is a resident of the district, a former school board member, and works at a business in the district. Ed would like to speak with you about the Longfellow building.
I'm delighted to be here tonight. I'm here representing myself, not any of the organizations that I am a part of. And I'm here really wanting to express a deep belief in the importance of civic engagement. It's one of those talents and skills and abilities that we hope our students will acquire during their education experience. So I am delighted that there is such a nice turnout of individuals who care about their community and who want to engage in dialogue with their school board members. For me, the purpose of, or the ideal endpoint for civic engagement is to create win-win scenarios, outcomes. There's a large population of individuals in Everett who love this building and who would love to have the history that's related to it retained and valued in our community as an asset. The idea that the building would become a parking lot is of huge concern to these people and is at the cost of $2 million, a matter that is very significant in terms of people's emotions and feelings. This item is a matter of economic considerations, social considerations, and political considerations that will follow the vote that occurs tonight. So I am here specifically to offer my experience and know-how in working with the community and the school district, if you so choose, to find creative solutions for this building that result in win-win scenarios that everybody is excited to be a part of. I have a deep background in community development. I understand financing, historic tax credits, low-income housing tax credits, new market tax credits, solar tax credits, other forms of financing that are available for this kind of project. I understand how to do the research to find creative opportunities that can make a building like this a community asset. So I'm here simply tonight to offer to be a part of community action to save this very special building and to find a win-win scenario that benefits students and the school district in its aspiration to provide a wonderful education for the students of our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good.
It's up to you. That doesn't fit the policy. Had this problem before. Actually, we should have caught it outside, and we didn't. And last time I apologize. This time I'm not going to call the person and apologize. I think it is.
We have a request for public comment from Austin Ryak. I'm not sure. Our policy is that you need to be a resident of the district, and it appears that you are not a resident of the district.
Stevens.
You live in Lake Stevens and not an employee of the district. Okay. So under our policy, you do need to be a resident of the district for us to hear public comments. Thank you.
We have no more sign-ups.
Thank you to everyone for your comments this evening. We will move on to section 7.0 consent agenda. Dr. Cohn, would you please provide an introduction to the consent agenda?
Yes, the board's consent agenda contains repetitive business items. Examples of this type of an item include meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts and grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes the consent agenda will include items that occur less frequently, but that are of a routine business nature. The less frequently occurring consent agenda items are usually reviewed by the board in its Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting, when those items are scheduled to appear on the consent agenda. This gives directors time to ask staff questions about those items or to consider a discussion about the policy implications of those items. If a consent agenda item is removed by the concurrence of 2 directors, that item is placed into business. The remaining items are automatically renumbered by our system, and the board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received, I believe, 1 inquiry regarding expenditures, and we were able to answer that inquiry and provide the response to directors ahead of this meeting. There were no other inquiries or changes. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented as it was published for your approval this evening.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Mitchell to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section? Hearing no requests, we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Consent agenda is approved. We'll move to section 8.0, board comments. This is an opportunity for directors to share their activities and comments that relate to board service. We will start with Director Lassane.
Oh, that sounds great. I would like to say that I had the opportunity this past couple of weeks since our last board meeting to attend several saucers at Sequoia High School, at Woodside Elementary, Emerson, and North Middle. And I must say, all of them were fantastic. I would like to applaud those teachers and staff that took the time to do the hard work that's necessary to provide the data on how well our students are doing and present that, so with so much skill, and that you could see the excitement in each of the rooms that we went into and how well they did, and even if the kids did not do well, what they're doing and how they're improving the educational opportunities for our kids. And I would like to say that, they did an awesome job. They did an awesome job. And it just goes to show that each one of the teachers that our kids connect with is so vital and so important. And each one of them go the extra way to make sure their students feel like they're the best thing since sliced bread. Not that, bread's been around for a long time, but it's a figure of speech saying you matter. And so I would like to just say that, you staff that's sitting here, please ensure that our teachers and our staff at our individual schools know that they are welcome and that they are doing a good job and that they are working very hard to do the job that they have to do. And I appreciate that. I truly appreciate that. So I also had the opportunity to attend a STEM activity at Lowell Elementary School. Now, some people don't think, this activity at an elementary school is important, but I saw, I was number 8. So I saw 7 students who were thrilled to have the opportunity to do a STEM activity called flying marshmallows. You wonder what is flying marshmallows all about? But they built a very simple catapult, and they used projectiles such as marshmallows, to then measure the distance that this marshmallow would fly from one place to another place. And at the end, I must say, the marshmallows tasted very well. We had the opportunity to taste those marshmallows. But we evaluated the difference of the size and weight of a projectile, because the next projectile we used were buttons. And we measured, do they fly any differently from one place to another thing based on the weight? And we also talked about fulcrums and what went into building a catapult. So these were elementary school kids that were learning engineering. Oh, wonderful. And again, the marshmallows taste very good. I'm also very happy with in our consent agenda that Everett Public Schools and Snohomish County are continuing the partnership around a resource officer at Gateway Middle School. Thank you, Dr. Cohn, for that hard work.
Been about 2 years worth of work, hasn't it?
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Hard work. And I know
Yes.
the community will benefit from that agreement, and the community will benefit with having a resource officer at Gateway Middle School. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Lissay. Director Mason?
Yes, I would like to use my time this evening. Similar to Mr. O'Donnell, I have not spoken out publicly about my feelings about the Longfellow building. So I'd like to do so tonight. Since the board's approval of Resolution 1149 in May of 2017 to call for bids to demolish the Longfellow building and annex, I have seen an outpouring of support to save this historic building, as exemplified tonight, and believe now is not the time to move forward with the salvage or the demolition. Built in 1911 as an elementary school to some of Everett's most celebrated and respected residents, it represents a unique and irreplaceable piece of our community's history. In a 2013 district survey on capital facilities uses, approximately 70% of the respondents favored selling or repurposing Longfellow. Many went out of their way to specifically request the building not be demolished. The Longfellow building is indeed in disrepair. At this point, no external party has come forward with an offer that both works in their interest and supports district goals. It is important to ensure whatever business resides in the Longfellow building, we make student safety and district operations a priority. In Cassie Franklin's recent State of Everett address, she emphasized the growth in our area that we will experience in the coming years. Everett Public Schools is expecting close to 1,700 additional students in the next 10 years. Although there might not be an identified use for the Longfellow property today, the continued population increase will warrant the need for higher density and to make use of existing properties. The district itself might eventually find a need to repurpose this building with, for example, an early learning center or specialty STEM program. The $31,000 a year to maintain the building is no small amount, yet is a dramatic difference from the current estimate of over $2 million to demolish the building. I personally cannot support such an expenditure of taxpayer dollars, which has little or no impact on student success. I also disagree with the assessment that additional parking is needed. In 2013, when the Community Resource Center opened, an additional 121 parking stalls were added to the area property. I have attended football games on what we call doubleheader nights, where two games are scheduled in one evening, and have seen many empty parking stalls to the south end of the stadium. Finally, I believe the district needs to do more out-of-the-box thinking in marketing of this property, involving members of our community, researching state programs, and exploring other funding sources might yield more creative solutions. I am asking my fellow directors tonight to reconsider the current salvage plan that's on tonight's agenda. I believe the future use of this building should be reconsidered with input from the community and the next superintendent who will ultimately live with the final decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mason. Director Mitchell?
Yes, I'm going to put my student representative hat on really quick. That Jackson High School will be starting Comedy of Errors this weekend and next weekend. My daughter is not on the stage, but she is part of the crew. So I'm just being pretending like I'm her. But on that avenue, I really do want to thank the PTSA Council. I am a member of 27 schools or programs, including the special ed PTSA. And when I was at the Gateway Saucer yesterday, I asked, how were they able to do the production of Little Mermaid? Because when my daughter was at Gateway, there was no theater program and it was resisted. And I was told that the PTA took it on and the PTA owned it and the PTA took care of it. And that adds so much to the students' growth and development, especially having a daughter that's part of theater and really wanted it there. And at the front desk was actually the young lady that plays Ariel, who's a personal friend's daughter. So that's just a bias there. But it was the fact that PTSA did that for those kids at that school when it wasn't being willing to take on otherwise. But with regards to saucers, I went to, I think, one of the best saucers I've ever seen because they had double-digit increases in some of their SBA scores. And really taking a community school that is capable, has students that are capable, and letting the students and parents see that they can do it and they can achieve it. It was really great. And to go to Gateway Middle School, where I heard collaboration over and over and over again, and a high-performing school that knows that every child isn't succeeding and is really trying to take the time to look at every child, because like all of our high schools, they just have a few more kids to get over the mark. And it's not a heavy lift for some of our schools where it is a heavier lift for others, but each of our schools is willing to take on the hard work. And to see the science teachers there who completely created the curriculum assessments and rubrics for the new science standards, because there aren't tools and things out there that our state put in a test with no resources. That's a lot of hard work, and our staff seemed really, really pleased at their work and the challenge and the effort that they're taking. And it was just really, really, it was a delight to see the professionalism of the staff that works in this district at each of our saucers. And it's, this is just a really, really, really great place to serve. So thank you.
Thank you. I will start my comments with saying that last Saturday I attended the Blue and Gold auction. I'm not sure it's a school-sanctioned event, but certainly...
It's a PTA event.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. Oh, it is a PTA event, sorry.
Blue and Gold.
I had such a good time, I missed that main point. A wonderful community turnout and just a great, great event. I had not been before. We heard a wonderful report from Principal Bella about the great things going on at Everett High School, the successes, the challenges. Was very upbeat in his speech. And then they had to raise the paddle for the drama club, drama program. Again, saw some wonderful examples of the great work going on in the drama department there. And also there was a nice recognition of Joy Stewart, which is very well deserved. So it was a very fun night, and I urge everyone, if you can, to go. I wasn't really planning to do this right now, but I think because of the audience here and the conversations we've had tonight, I actually had made a few notes that I was going to share at the time that we talk about the Longfellow motion, but I think I too will just kind of publicly declare my support of the Longfellow building at the moment and read a few things a few of my thoughts. And so I will just say I have been a part of the board's discussions since 2011 in determining the future of the Longfellow. In fact, I voted in favor of moving forward with demolition of the building per the board's vote and call for bids on May 28, 2017, I believe that is. But since that time, I have had a change of mind and change of heart. Hearing from our community and learning more about the building and the role it played in the early days of Everett Public Schools has convinced me that a move towards demolition at this time is not the correct course of action and the preservation of the building must be considered. A recent accounting of schools demolished over the years shows 9 of 12 schools built prior to 1925 have been demolished. So I am very impressed that this building, built 108 years ago, has withstood the test of time without major renovations and was utilized up until a mere 5 years ago. So conversations about creative uses and potential partnerships to preserve the building have surfaced over the past several months. There is no urgency to demolish the building. Other Everett schools have been closed and repurposed at a later date. These include Washington School, which was closed in '72, sold in '82, and eventually converted to a retirement community in 1988. Roosevelt School closed in 1973 and was sold 10 years later and eventually converted to a church. The school district has also funded the renovation of other schools and facilities through use of bond dollars. The old South Junior, which is now our beloved Sequoia High School, was renovated at a cost of close to $8 million. Everett High School had $12 million in renovations, and also the Everett High School Little Theater. It's only reasonable to delay this action to begin the removal and surplusing of historic items until further research and investigation can be made into alternative uses other than a parking lot. Once the building is gone, it's gone, and I believe it deserves greater consideration. Thank you. We will move on to Superintendent's report.
All righty. I think we're going to switch the display over, and I think I get to start this evening's report with a lovely photograph of the 100th day of school celebration at Cedarwood Elementary. Now, I don't think any of these people is 100 years old, but I thought you'd like to see what they think being 100 years old and being part of a school staff might look like. In any event, we want to thank them for the great picture out of Cedarwood. These are the items in tonight's superintendent's report, and we're going to try tonight to do a little bit of a video. We hope it works tonight. We'll see. Wanted to give you a couple of pictures along the lines of some good news. This is a photograph of Hawthorne Elementary School performing the Lion King Kids Edition for one night only on February 14th in Everett's Civic Auditorium. Wanted you to see how well the youngsters did and what the costuming looked like for this event. This year, we had a lot of success with our marketing students participating in Distributive Education Clubs of America contests. This year, 13 Everett High School DECA chapter members, who are our students, are competing with 4,000 other DECA members across the state at the Career Development Conference in Bellevue. I should say they did. The students who scored in the top 6 of competition categories advance to the International Career Development Conference in Orlando, Florida. We're excited for them to do that. Everett High School was recognized at last week's opening session for chapters who attained the Thrive Level membership campaign, and also for chapters with 100% of the business and marketing students who have joined their DECA chapter. We'll have additional information on some of the other chapters at future meetings. I happen to get these photos first. We wanted to congratulate the Cascade High School Crimson cheerleaders on their spectacular finish at the JAMS Nationals last week. The cheerleaders finished second place in the co-ed sideline performance and fourth in the co-ed cheer level 2. This is a picture of our digital ambassadors, and we wanted you to know that students in grades 4 through 12 and their families recently attended one of several parent tech talks that we hold here at the Community Resource Center. They learn the benefits and opportunities available through social media and digital tools with international speaker and trainer, someone who you've also visited with for training, Jeff Utecht and his Eduro team. Parents and students also heard from our digital learning ambassadors who are students from our high schools. They volunteer for training and to provide help for their classmates with tech learning. So we wanted to give them a shout out this evening. We wanted to congratulate Eisenhower Middle School sixth grader Jason Asias. He's winner of the Eisenhower Middle School Spelling Bee. There were 14 finalists who survived almost 300 rounds of words before Jason won it by correctly spelling the word Babylon. He then represented, we thought Nebuchadnezzar might have been a harder word, but it wasn't, they didn't ask us. He then represented Eisenhower at the Kings Snohomish Regional Finals on March 2 at the Maidenbauer Center and made it to the third round. So congratulations, Jason. We've got some more wonderful news to share with you tonight. Heatherwood Middle School students and staff held their third annual multicultural night. They tell us the meeting was filled with laughter, with family fun, with beautiful art and activities, well-executed research projects, and engaging entertainment and exhibitions. And I understand there was incredibly delicious food. This is one of a number of multicultural nights around the district, and if you have an opportunity to attend some of these, any of these, I really do recommend it. It is a great opportunity to meet families, meet parents, and see the kinds of changes that are occurring in our district over the last several years, and really get some sense of what our district's going to look like over the next several decades as these changes continue in our district and the surrounding community. We want to congratulate the Jackson High School boys basketball team. The season came to a close last week at the state tournament. Jackson's this year's Wesco 4A League champ, and they possess an undefeated league record. We want to wish them the very best in their attempt to take state again next year. The first 2 weeks of February were kind of incredible, and our maintenance department worked very hard to keep up with the snowstorms that blasted our schools not once, but twice. Our communications team created a video to show our appreciation of their tremendous efforts. And I wanted you to quickly, if we can get it to work tonight, see our men and women working very hard night and day, clearing snow to keep our students and staff here at our 26 schools and various support locations safe. Guess what? It's not going to work tonight either. We're going to try this again.
I'm going to try to help.
He's going to come and help. Tell you what.
We need to see what goes with that music.
We need to see what goes with the music. Yeah, we try this over and over and over again, and for whatever reason, this thing just does not want to try this. Want to do this again? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's not doing that. It's up there. Yeah. I said last time I'm never trying one of these again.
We could all just come huddle.
No, we got it.
We got it. Oh.
Don't go away.
But now we need the music.
Stay here.
We need the music.
Now you need the music.
Now you need to, yes.
How's that? Don't go away. I gotta get back to this rest of the video. Oh, it's great. Well, we wanted to share with you our thanks for our maintenance and custodial grounds folks' work. They really have done a tremendous job helping us make sure the district is safe for folks and keeping the buildings warm. And we just thought that the recognition that we provided during their recent training session, all-day training session, was worth sharing with you because they don't get enough public recognition for the work that they do all year round. And when they're here night and day on weekends trying to get schools open and safe for folks, it's worth spending a couple minutes recognizing them. Wanted to let you know that we held our very first Empowered to Lead Student Summit. And Jarrett, thank you very much for the technology help. We'll try it again another time, maybe July, August. Everett, we held our first Empowered to Lead Student Summit on Friday, the 22nd of February. This event brought together 117 students from all 4 of our Everett high schools. The keynote speaker was Christian Page, and he challenged students to step outside their comfort zones and to lead. Students chose among session topics on Islamophobia, the hip-hop culture, racial equity, and being an LGBTQ ally, and developing common ground. We collected exit comments from the students, and there were many more than I can read to you, but because this was the first one, and it was quite an undertaking for us, and students really responded so positively, I thought I'd read a couple of them. One student said, "Hearing other people's experiences made my perspective change." Another said, "Everything isn't about your color. It's about the power in your voice. It's about the power in your voice that should be heard." Another said, "Don't always try to fit in. You have to be an individual to truly help and make a difference." Another said, "Follow the characteristics that you admire to reach your dreams." And yet another said, "Speak out for others." So I want to thank Sally Lancaster, I want to thank Joyce Stewart, and I want to thank the parent who suggested that we do this. We've engaged a lot of students, a lot of family, a lot of parents in a variety of family and community conversations. This really was a powerful event, and I'm very much looking forward to the district being able to engage students in this fashion in the future. We wanted to let you know that North Middle School is receiving a $10,000 gift from the Mockingbird Foundation to purchase percussion instruments for what it said in the material is the North Middle School Marching Band. I've seen the band, but I haven't yet seen the band march. So I'm very much looking forward to this supporting a full-blown marching band at North Middle School. The Mockingbird Foundation, by the way, is a nonprofit organization that was founded by Fish fans, a 90s rock band. And it was founded in 1996 to generate charitable proceeds from the Fish community. I suppose this might be somewhat like Queen and the Grateful Dead and all that sort of thing. I should have worn my Grateful Dead tie tonight, but I didn't. But I wanted you to know where this came from. So we're very, very grateful to this group for supporting music at North Middle School. A couple of quick construction updates. The North Middle School contractor continues to install exterior sheathing, interior framing, plumbing, electrical, and mechanical rough-in works being done. Installation of the roofing materials approximately 90% complete, as is the exterior weather barrier. The masonry subcontractors began applying masonry veneer on the courtyard walls, and the contractors working overtime, Mr. Gunn tells us, to make up for lost productivity. We did have a little bit of snow and ice interruption there. At Tambark Creek Elementary, temporary heat has been installed in the building. The contractor continues to install interior wall framing, drywall, plumbing, electrical, and mechanical rough-in. Interior painting is underway. Installation of roofing materials and exterior weather barriers approximately 80% complete. The installation of windows and exterior sidings underway, and although the progress has been a bit slowed by the weather, Mr. Gunn assures us that the school is scheduled to open in September. Wanted to give you a bit of an update on Longfellow. You heard a lot of comments this evening. You heard board comments. I expect you'll hear more board comments during Mike's presentation. This is on the agenda this evening so that you'll have an opportunity to take a step in the Longfellow process. That's something we've been working on for some time. I very much appreciate all of the respectful comments and certainly appreciate the emotion that's attached to the building. Your action tonight is a step in the process regarding the future of a facility that you've been and the previous school boards have been working on for about 12 years. This began in 2007. You approved a programming and feasibility study to consolidate district administrative functions into a central facility and subsequently vacate both the Longfellow and the Colby Avenue buildings. We've clearly accomplished one of those tasks. You approved the real estate property use matrix after extensive community input, and you approved Resolution 1149. That's some of the background that leads us to the work that you have to do this evening. This is one of those items that staff work very hard on and know that there are divided opinions on, and we look forward to answering your questions this evening. We also want you to know that a group called Association for Learning Environments is holding a day of service at Madison Elementary School, Saturday, April 20. They will be providing donations of $66,000, I'm told, in site, furniture, play equipment, and landscape materials. I don't believe we've quite gotten to the point where we've asked you to approve this, but we wanted you to know it's coming and that it's a fairly grand scope of work that's being planned with community support at Madison. On another note, Snohomish County PUD and Puget Sound Energy recently awarded $46,500 in energy grants to the district for 3 HVAC projects, 2 at Sequoia, 1 at Everett High, and these projects will continue to accrue actual energy savings over time as well. I included this evening what I hope are active links in the PDF version of the report that's going to be up on the website. We want you to know that the capital bond planning work is proceeding. The high school growth mitigation planning committee's work is proceeding. You have a quick list of information that Mr. Gunn is placing on the website for community and you to look at. A little interesting note is that the revised estimates for high school, comprehensive high school number 4, have come down a little bit, which may well be an indication of what's happening in the real estate and construction markets, and certainly would have an effect on, we would hope, all the other project costs that we're looking at in the future. Mike wanted you to know that there are 500 online comments that we've received in the January-February process regarding high school growth mitigation, and that those are available to folks on the website as well. And hopefully these links, which don't look like links, they look like underlines, will take you directly there. These are the school visits that occurred over the past month. And I want to thank, in particular, the students at Everett High School for once again holding a senior citizens dinner. It was a great opportunity to meet and see a number of people and see a number of community members again at the high school. I didn't put these things in my slides, but I wanted you to know that I'm approving I know you've been looking at this little guy. I'm approving a course, a tech course. This is a drone. I actually have the device to fly it. I chose not to do it during my report, especially given my luck with videos, and I might try a little bit later, but very, very safe plastic things. I understand it can't hurt you, but I wanted to see for myself, because before we approved that, we wanted to make sure safety first, right? I was able to fly it successfully earlier today in my office. I also wanted to very much thank Janice Green and the NAACP. I think it was my 10th or close to my 10th opportunity to attend the Snohomish County National Association for the Advancement of Colored People Gala, and I was very moved. President Green presented me the President's Award for the work with the association and for the district, and it was a big surprise, and my wife got tears in her eyes, so I wanted you all to know that. So that's my report this evening. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. We will move on to strategic progress monitoring. And tonight we have a mid-year progress report on our strategic plan. It's hard to believe it's mid-year, past mid-year. Because this was scheduled for the earlier meeting that we had to cancel for snow, yeah. Mr. Gunn?
All right, so tonight I am, once again, I have the pleasure of presenting to you the, along with 8 other members of the cabinet, the mid-year progress report on implementation of the strategic plan, which is includes highlights of the work done so far this year to implement the strategic plan. We were, I thought, going to have 8 other members of the cabinet, and it looks like one of them has delegated to some of the others some of her presentation material. Part of a retirement plan, I think, in progress. So this strategic plan was originally approved by the school board in 2011 and has been modified annually since then as needed, and it is focused on educating, preparing, and inspiring our students for their future. The time period covered by this report is September 1 of 2018 to January 31, 2019. This presentation is accompanied by a 44-page report entitled the Strategic Plan Mid-Year Progress Report 2018-19. It is attached to board docs, and it describes this work and the highlights in more detail. One of the additions to this report, as opposed to previous versions, is that, and you may have noticed on pages 2 and 3, there are 8 performance measure signs. And these represent or offer a visual representation of some of the highest level strategic achievements of our district, kind of a visual executive summary of the report. So I put those in the beginning of the report just to give the reader kind of a visual look at the performance and the achievements of our district. As usual, we have the strategic links identified for you and for the community. Tonight's objectives is to tell the stories, a summary of the progress made by the district over the first 6 months, actually about 5 months or so of the year. The work and the achievements described in this report were performed by the entire staff, students, and parents, and community members, support organizations of the district, as well as, of course, yourselves, the board, and the superintendent. We cabinet members are helping to lead this work and have the pleasure of presenting this to you tonight. Each of our presenters tonight will be invited up by the previous presenter to allow us to proceed in a timely manner in this presentation. And now I would like to cover with you briefly just a quick look at the planning horizons. We have a long-range 60-month planning horizon that has stretched to 8 or 9 years. I think originally we were looking at 16 months as kind of the long-range horizon for this, and it's lasted longer. We also go through every 12 months, like I said, an update process, and we do that every year to make sure that the priorities, goals, and key performance outcomes in the strategic plan and the annual operating plan are aligned with the board goals for the year, as well as the superintendent goals, and ultimately get built into the action plans that each department and each school, in the form of school improvement plans that they put together. So it's all aligned and geared to do the work that we want to do. With that, I'm going to ask Dr. Sally Lancaster to start off with the first part, teaching and learning.
Good evening. Mr. Fleckenstein and I are excited to share the work of the teaching and learning priorities. We want to thank Dr. Stewart for taking the lead and helping put together this report. We hope that we make you proud, and I have been noticing she's a little too relaxed sitting over there tonight. I want to remind you that we're not sharing all of the work or accomplishments, but we're going to focus on specific actions that are new or improved this year. So I'll start with the on-time graduation goals and intervention strategies. This work is already highly refined. I'll focus tonight on the principal-only meetings. This is a new component, or it happens once a year, and this is a meeting about principals sharing best practices. It provides an opportunity for them to discuss topics of their choice, and their focused deliberations help inform our annual on-time graduation plan. The topics range from strategic initiatives, very in-depth instructional topics, to practical but still important components like final schedules and how to collect all of those devices at the end of the year. Next, we've spent a lot of effort and energy around increasing attendance rates this year. Last year, we stopped differentiating between the excused and unexcused absences and talked about an absence is an absence. We need students to be here so that they can learn and meet the rigorous requirements. So in August, we offered a safe and civil schools training to all of our administrators on attendance strategies. They received a book with the effective strategies. Additionally, each school holds monthly attendance meetings to monitor their attendance. We have monthly attendance monitoring percentages in the principal's packet each month, and then we have sent out our nudge letters again this year, and we'll be doing it again in the spring. These are highly effective at catching parents' attention on students' attendance. Is it just like your electric bill, where it compares this year's use to last year's? It will compare their students' attendance to the whole school in general, and it has really created some changes in behaviors. So schools also are recognizing students for their positive attendance. Jefferson Elementary even implemented a no tardy tater program with Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head being used as an incentive. So there's lots of creative things in all of our schools that are happening. Tier 4 students, we also develop individualized action plans for these students. Now, Tier 4 students are those students that have maybe made some choices or taken some actions that prevent their ability to return to school or be in the school setting safely. They are still our responsibility to educate. So we work with them to develop re-engagement plans. We set up tutoring that might be at the school after hours, or it might be sometimes in the athletic building conference room. We meet there, and sometimes we have students meet off-site in a public library. We do this to ensure that they have access to their education and have a high-quality person who gives them support, encouragement, and helps them meet the needs of their studies until they can find their way back into the school setting. Next, this year we focused our school improvement efforts around John Hattie's high-impact strategies. These are researched best practice strategies that schools can use that have the highest impact. All of our administrators were changed on these strategies and are trained on these strategies in August. Teacher clarity and success criteria were two high impact strategies that most schools chose to go with. This is a picture of Mrs. Connery's class at Penny Creek, where they're implementing those. You'll see a very clear learning target up there on the whiteboard. Students have their geo boards, and they're meeting that target through a problem that the teacher poses, and then they're evaluating each other's creation based on the success criteria. So all of the students are able to evaluate and meet the objectives because the criteria is so clear and they have a greater understanding of their learning. I'd like to point out that picture in the middle is a learning ladder that lists all of the learning targets for the unit, and it's referred to frequently by both the students and the teacher. And Mr. Fleckenstein's going to come up and continue on.
Well, as Dr. Lancaster said, the Teaching and Learning Department is definitely working the strategic plan for all it's worth this year. And a big portion of that work is professional development with our staff. And so this is the third year of our integrated technology plan. And this year we have 7 schools participating in the authentic learning experiences. That's about 400 total instructional staff that are participating. And this particular professional development provides staff the skills that they need to implement one-to-one technology in our schools that will help our students to learn 21st century skills and be college, career, and life ready. These trainings have occurred on 3 separate occasions here this school year, here at the CRC, and delivered by the Jeff Utech team and supported by our LMS department. Well, those who fail to plan to fail. And one of the things that we have really focused on this year with our schools is developing the professional learning communities and our teacher teams to effectively plan together. Because when they have a collaborated and effective plan, we know that student learning will happen. So in partnership with the union EEA representation and developing a lesson plan book through the leadership of Dr. Stewart, getting that template out to teams and making sure that our collaborative time during the school year is used to its maximum. This focus on high-performing teams is a vehicle for creating clarity and alignment within our instruction, which, as Dr. Lancaster focused on, was delivered through professional development in August to our instructional teams at our buildings. So in August, teacher teams, along with their building administrators, learned side by side from 2 nationally known professionals, Kristen Anderson, who is delivered and taught the professional development on high-impact instructional strategies. John Hattie's work, really focusing in on high effect size instructional strategies that would make an impact on student learning. And the 2 that was most focused upon was clarity of instruction and teacher communication with students and student feedback for learning. And as you've been in your saucer presentations this year, you probably noticed that as an instructional focus within our school improvement efforts. Rick Wormley was here for his second year to work with our schools to develop high-impact engaging instructional strategies, because we know even those best lesson plans that are created by teams are only as effective if kids are paying attention and engaged in their learning. To support our students who are struggling at school with social emotional issues and that may unfortunately have used coping mechanisms that are unhealthy to deal with those things, we have advanced our partnership with Therapeutic Health Services to provide support for students as an alternative to having them out of school when a discipline infraction occurs. Using Therapeutic Health Services, we were able to provide on-site counseling for students to get drug and alcohol therapy and treatment, at the same time as helping them to stay engaged in school, to keep up with their credits, and continue learning. This has eliminated a large barrier for our most struggling students, and that contributed to students dropping out. And I'm glad that it's having a huge success on keeping our kids engaged in our schools. And then finally, our schools are engaged in their second year of implementation of the PBIS program, working with Sound Supports to advance the school's cultural and behavioral work. 8 teams in our school district have moved on to Tier 2 training in the early winter, as others will continue to follow them in the Tier 2 development of their school PBIS frameworks. This is, of course, aligned to a multi-tiered system of support framework that you have seen presented in your saucer visitations this year. And at this time, I would like to invite Brian Beckley up to the podium.
Thank you. As Dr. Lancaster mentioned when she stood up for teaching and learning, we have a few slides in our section that highlight some of the new work in priority area number 2 that we wanted to highlight. The first that we're really excited about is our work with Canvas as our learning management platform. Last summer it started really some focused PD. Keep in mind that these numbers are high school at this point. That's the group that we're focused on at our one-to-one schools. And currently we have about 50%, just over 50% of our high school teachers utilizing Canvas regularly with their students, which started last summer with some focused summer PD in various methods. Some of it was face-to-face methods. We had a summer Canvas camp over here at the CRC. Also some online training that has been kind of ongoing and throughout the summer. collaborated with our content area directors, working closely with them on the Canvas professional development and aligning the curricular and instructional maps rather than just turning on Canvas and just having teachers just use it. We wanted to be intentional about it, preparing them and aligning it and making sure they had all the right information and were using it in the right fashion. So really strategic in how we rolled it out and really excited about, as you can tell from last year to the current year, the dramatic improvement as we've sort of gradually released Canvas with that professional development. I'll just highlight the numbers. This first slide is talking about Canvas high school resources. And a resource is anything that's been added by a teacher that's a course. It could be videos. It's content related. And so you can see as the school year has begun, we've just got first semester data here, as teachers are building their courses, the resources that they are building has increased dramatically at the start of the semester. So that's very exciting. It's essentially what you see there are the number of pages of content, and content is the resources that students would access. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see the numbers. And this exciting part about that is those are unique users. So 5,112 high school students logged into Canvas at least once during first semester. So we have the number of times they've logged in, but we know that many students and that many teachers have access during semester at least once. And you see how many published courses that have content are present there. So really excited, and when we have we'll continue to update the board on what second semester looks like. The second piece is how many times they logged in, and the login information is the number of students and teachers that did. Now these are not particularly unique users. It's the number of times someone logged in within each month, and it shows how often they are accessing Canvas content throughout the month. Those courses and that content that you saw on the last slide. So very exciting, again, the growth from last year to this year, so really excited about that. Again, this is only high school at this point. Another one of our goal areas is about ensuring that our district network is secure and we have a hardened network for outside phishing and malware attacks. Another one of our goal that is something that's really important to us. And working in partnership with Microsoft, they've added some called advanced threat protection option as part of our partnership with them. And we started that during the course. We actually turned it on in November. So this is just the track of 90 days of tracking the number of emails that come into our phishing attempts just in the last 90 days. So the top number, that top line, is just emails that have come in. Either it's a link that's been flagged in an email or it's the email itself. And the advanced threat protection has blocked it from entering the district network. The bottom number is email messages with malware warnings that has an attachment. So staff, and you might have noticed when you send an attachment now, it takes a few seconds to scan that, and that's part of the advanced threat protection. So you can see from the beginning of when we turned that on until currently how much was blocked from entering the district network. And so we'll continue to monitor that. We've only had it on, again, just started that in November, as a way of maintaining what enters our network and making sure that that's secure. We continue the one-to-one device rollout. This shows where we've been, where we are currently, and where we are going. It's amazing to think that by the end of summer of the current year, 2019, we'll have over 15,000 devices out to our one-to-one schools. And you can see up to this point how much we've deployed at our one-to-one schools and what's in store for next year. I've also been asked to stand in for our communications director, and so I will do the best I can. And she said she would be available for questions if needed. So in our communication and engagement goal area, from last year at 640,000 to 861,000 of media ad equivalency. In other words, we would have paid for that, but through the work of our communications office, sort of that idea of free advertising, how much it's increased from last year to this year. You see our number of monthly web visits is up 20%, our mobile app downloads is up 20%, and the number of people that we've had attending our 5 executive briefings. Our communications office has put together an amazing brand guide that they've shared with the district, and it's a great promotion of the district brand, along with a communication calendar and quick snippet videos, one of which you saw today. Now, people, structure, and systems.
For people, structures, and systems with professional development, a new thing this year is we've started inviting teachers to go visit other teachers, which is one of the best forms of professional development. As you can see in these pictures here, they're highly engaged, they're interested in learning what their colleagues are doing, and there's been a lot of excitement about that collegiality of going into the classroom and seeing. There have been content level walks within schools and even vertical walks where elementary teachers have visited the middle school to see how their students are doing to inform their practice. So this has been a very powerful opportunity for our teachers to learn and grow from one another, which is great because we have such a high level of quality in our teaching staff here in Everett. School safety is also of utmost importance, and so we have implemented the School Safety Center system this year, and this actually is an app that everyone can have on their phone. And what is really nice about it is you open the app, that first screen there on the left is the screen that you see, and you decide if you want to look at the evacuation plan or you want to look at the severe weather alert. You choose which school you want to go into, and then with one simple other additional click, you could be in a map of the school. So any teacher that doesn't have their notebook of emergency plans when the alarm's pulled, if they have their phone, they will have access to that. Sergeant Reeves, if he needs it, he would have access to that too. So it's a really safe system that provides everything just with 3 quick taps on your phone. So we're very excited about that. And next,
public app or a school only, employee only app?
This is employee only, and those who need to know, like our SROs and our.
Sorry to interrupt. It was just sort of alarm went off.
Yeah, we wouldn't put this out for everyone to access.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yes. Thank you for asking. And now Debbie Kovacs will.
Thank you, Sally. So as you can see, equity is alive and well at Everett Public Schools, as evident as with what you're hearing tonight and previous strategic reports up till now. I'm just going to highlight a couple of new things that have been going on. We did launch Equity and Access webpage, and I decided not to try to demonstrate it here because, you know, I might have problems getting back and forth. So, but you should be able to easily get to it.
I don't know why you feel that way.
Through different avenues. There's a staff tab, and community tab, and family tab. So we've given every opportunity for you to do that. So it was intended to bring some coherence to the great work that everybody's doing in the district, and to provide a resource for our students in our community. So we're looking forward to keeping it alive and well and taking feedback from those who are accessing it, and it is ever evolving to make sure that we're providing those great resources. And then we're excited to share that we did host our first club leadership summit. There's a picture there of the folks actively engaged. We had over 65 student club leaders and associated student body across the district who came together to network, share successes and challenges in growing and sustaining their respective clubs, and to exchange ideas on what they can do to positively impact their school communities. As a result of this event, we're hearing that students went back immediately from that day in December and started talking with their peers to generate ideas on how to engage their clubs. And some are actually working with their administration to create a school-wide council so that they have a space to come together as leaders to talk about what's working, what's not working, to really get these clubs moving forward. So we're excited about that, and plans are already underway for continued work in this area. Recruitment and retention, our communities of color events we're in our 4th year now, and we continue to grow each time. We're glad to share that the Communities of Color Coalition is now a really strong partner in this, and we're hoping to build beyond what we have done in bringing in perhaps even other districts, area districts, to this work. But our last event, we had our largest group. It was over 45 in attendance, and to the extent that we're having to kind of look at perhaps new venues, although we love Lombardi's and they're doing a great job, we need to determine whether or not we need to find another place to hold more people. So that's exciting. It's gaining interest. We have enthusiasm with our staff. They have been very active in helping us now plan these, and our sponsorships are growing as well. So we're excited about that work. And then lastly, our Recruit Washington teachers work, the Teacher Academy to bilingual education to diversify our teacher corps in the long run, is well underway too. And we actually hosted it says Advisor Summit up there, but the title of it is an Education Career Pathway Seminar, where we brought together counselors and advisors across all 4 institutions, so UW-Bothell, Everett Community College, Marysville Public Schools, to engage in conversations about how all institutions can create system-wide understanding of entrance barriers, best practices, current and future pathways for underrepresented students entering and currently in education programs. We had planned for about 50 in attendance. We had over 70, so that again was a great opportunity for our coalition to get together. The information collected from this gathering is being used to inform our work as we look forward to building and enhancing this program. The pilot that's currently running at Cascade High School, while small, is going very strong, and their students are being placed for second semester to begin doing their observations as student teachers. And recruitment is well underway for not only Cascade High School, but to expand to Jackson High School and Everett High School. So with that, I'd like to invite Mike back to the podium.
All right, so into the construction area, you got a brief report from Dr. Cohn earlier in the meeting. Tambar Creek Elementary and North were the 2 featured on that. So I'll give you just a little bit more information. Tambar Creek Elementary School, the snow events over the last couple weeks have delayed to some degree this project as well as North. With Tambar Creek, we are still planning to have substantial completion occur late June. So we should be looking really good for the start of school in the new building. North Middle School is going through the same kind of construction phases that Tambar Creek is, maybe just a few weeks behind. North Middle School, the substantial completion for the new portion of the building is scheduled in August. So that is the one that we're really pushing right up against the end of the summer for move-in. The advantage that we have at North Middle School, of course, is that we have portables there, and we're not planning to move those portables off until we're sure that we can move in. In fact, at this point, we don't need those portables to be moved to any other schools in the district until the following summer. So we will be moving them so we can do the site work at North, but only after we're sure that we can move into the new building. Woodside Elementary School is moving forward. We're completing the final stages of design and entering the CEPA review and conditional use permit phases. We plan to start construction this summer. New building should be completed in the front of the building area in fall of 2020, and then site work after that. We are currently working on working out the scheduling for the phasing, and we'll have more for you on that later. Safety and security upgrades, we have done a lot of work over the last 2 summers. The second bullet really describes the work that we're going to be doing this summer, continuing to install security doors. This time we're going to hit, I think, 8 different schools and install sets of double doors within hallways to further separate internally some of the classroom wings from each other. These doors will be on magnetic hold opens, and in the event of an alarm, someone in the office hits a panic button, it closes the doors and locks them. as well as some security fencing at a couple schools as well. We are well underway with the high school growth mitigation committee. What we had planned for it to be the final meeting is actually tomorrow night. So we'll be sharing the building with you here. We did lose a meeting though due to the snow, so we're thinking it might take one more meeting to finish up our work. And as Dr. Cohn mentioned, in January and February, we've gotten 500 online comments from people to give us input on the maps that we had published in the forums and shown the community. The bond planning committee has met, I think, already 2 or 3 times. There is a wealth of information on the website. There is a link in the superintendent's report. I encourage you to go and take a look at it. One of those in particular, it's a booklet produced by the Dyckman Architects. It's over 100 pages long, just that one document, and that has all the site plans, all of the cost estimates, project narratives, and a lot of other information about program-related needs, and along with the facilities assessment. They're all in there, as well as historical information from us to the committee, so they know what we are doing in the 2016 bond and levy, what we propose doing in the 18 bond, and a lot of other stuff. So they have a wealth of information now. They have to get to work on that. They still have about another 2 months worth of work left. With that, I'll ask Jeff to step up.
And now everybody's favorite part. Talk a little bit about finances, just 2 slides. The first slide is the retrospective looking backward. District continues to have exceptional bond ratings. They were reaffirmed in the fall when we went out for sale for a bond, and we're looking at that last bond from the 2016 sale to occur in June. So we're entering the process again and expect to have another conversation. The auditors are here. Again, one finding in over 15 years. Everything, knock on wood, is seeming in shape for this year. And we just filed our comprehensive annual financial reports with the national registries, so our continuing disclosure requirements are met, and this is over 30 years of awards for that, knowing that we're one of just a handful of districts in the state that report that higher level. Looking forward, we continue, as we have always done, to have a 4-year fiscal outlook. Recently, the legislature imposes that as a part of our budgetary process, and that'll be new when you see it. No, actually, we saw it last year. You'll see it again this year. And our budget development process continues to focus on our 3 lenses, as we talked on: the strategic plan, the annual operating plan, student data, and the state of the school reviews. And we'll talk about that on March 12th during our budget work session. And finally, we continue to have our community engaged in our process and vetting our work. So it's a collaborative effort, and we continue to endeavor to deal with what always seems to be a bleak financial picture that we hope to remedy in the oncoming months. Now, Dr. Scott.
Thank you, Jeff. So I have the pleasure of ushering in the last strategic priority, the strategic relationships, and there's no better place to turn to start than early learning. We're proud of the continuous improvement processes that you're going to see here. So in addition to some new programs, I'm going to highlight the growth within programs that you're most likely familiar with, starting with Everett Ready, which, as you know, is funded by the Everett Public Schools Foundation, aimed at smoothing the transition to kindergarten for kids and families that have had no formal preschool experience, who often qualify for free and reduced lunch, whose first language is not English. This year, Everett Ready expanded to serve 247 students at 14 elementary schools. That's 5.5 more times students served since 2016, and an expansion of 12 schools in 2 years. Play and Learn involves birth to 5-year-olds and their parents, and this is a partnership with the City of Mill Creek and the Everett Public Library. This is where developmentally appropriate training takes place with caregivers and parents and students, so that best practices can be observed in context where kids play and learn. Statewide, over 10% of the students participating in Play and Learn live within Everett Public Schools boundaries, when we only make up 1.8% of the total population statewide. So we are very much overrepresented, which is a good thing, and we're taking advantage of those seats. The ECAP preschool program expanded from 280 students to 320 students this year. We continue to lead preschool to third grade professional learning across multiple agencies. Some examples include early numeracy and STEM advancements, demonstration lessons in classrooms, social emotional learning that you're hearing about in saucers as well. And so as you recall, those are the two lowest areas in our WA Kids assessment. So we're really focusing, we continue to focus in on those areas. And lastly, we wanted to highlight United Way Improving School Attendance Collaborative. We are one of 22 community partners. We're proud that all of those partners, of the 22, include all of the homeless shelters in Everett Public Schools boundaries, providing coordinated support and resources for homeless students and families in order to improve and sustain consistent school attendance. So this is all about removing barriers. Primarily in the navigation of college admissions and the financial aid processes is setting up kids to be successful in their post-secondary endeavors, to support them in their aspirations. Some examples here include college application days hosted by Everett Community College, WSU Everett, and UW Bothell, staff coming together to assist in this navigation of the application process, partnering continually with Everett Community College in hosting weekly consultation sessions. High school and beyond grew further than ever before. We had between 80 and 100 related partners this year. Students continue to receive support on their FAFSA completion, as we know that perception and reality of financial barriers is a real thing, a steep financial barrier to achieving those aspirations. And we continue to partner with the Everett Community College Foundation, Everett Public Schools Foundation, and some other private scholarship institutions to fund need-based college and the high school tuition assistance. Now I'd like to invite up Dana.
I think I have the last couple of slides here in strategic relationships. I'd like to start off by highlighting partnerships of 3 of our career pathways. The first in aerospace and advanced manufacturing. This last week, and we posted this in our Friday report, WANEC has approved our 3-credit Foundations of Manufacturing course to be offered at Cascade High School. So you know that currently is being offered in the auto shop at Cascade High School. Boeing has been an amazing partner as we've received funding through the OSPI, Boeing funding through the OSPI to support equipment such as the CNC machine that's now in the auto shop and supporting this program, as well as supporting professional development for the educators who are working with our students in that program. AJAC, the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee, is continuing a strong partner and will be launching our 2nd cohort of students in the youth apprenticeship this spring. Deb mentioned our careers in education focus. We, as she mentioned, have an Introduction to Education course at Cascade High School. This is a dual credit course with Everett Community College, and that dual credit is very unique in that it is the first credit for the education certificate program, our degree program, both at Everett Community College and UW Bothell. So the students truly are starting their post-secondary degree work in high school, and we are working right now to recruit students into both a Everett High School and a Jackson High School course. And as Deb mentioned, the Recruit Washington Teachers partnership is helping us not only recruit more students, but more diverse students into this course and into our teacher education pathway. Our medical and health careers pathway also is making some great strides. This next year, in the fall of 2019, we'll be offering a medical terminology course. Again, that is a dual credit course with Everett Community College. It does not sound like a super exciting course, medical terminology, but that's the name of the course at EVCC, so we need to use that title. This course, while the students learn medical terminology, it's an introduction to careers and medical and health industries. So it's kind of that introduction exploratory course. Like the manufacturing work at Cascade High School, we're starting with 1 course, getting that right, and then expanding that is our promise to a 3-credit skill center course is our plan. We're also working with Mike Gunn's group and figuring out how to utilize the $4 million that we've acquired from the state to modernize the vocational building. Both the coursework and this the work on the vocational building is being informed by a design team that is largely being comprised of WSU, UW-Bothell, Everett Community College, Kaiser Permanente, and Providence. They're helping us inform that growth, as well as both Kaiser Permanente and Providence have made promise to donate equipment to the new facility, or the modernized facility. This last slide, I'd like to just provide you a brief update. If you were at Mayor Cassie Franklin's January State of the City, you heard her speak of a new partnership between Everett Public Schools and the City of Everett, the partnership called Everett Career Link. We have postponed the study session on career pathways because of snow. It's now in April. One of the pieces that we will share with you, and I'll briefly share right now, is we've with a consultant conducted research around best practices of career-connected learning. How does a region successfully host career-connected learning programs? One of the pieces that we'll share with you is that those regions that are successful have a few key elements to their partnerships. One is a government agency, the second is a school district, and the third is something called an intermediary. I kind of think of it as that airlock between employers and school systems. So we're piloting right now the idea of an intermediary who can help us with the outward-facing recruitment and preparation of employers as we build out our summer 90-hour 4-credit summer internship for our high school students. So that's the core of our current partnership, Everett Career Link, with the City of Everett. That's what I have. So I think I hand it over to Mike.
Thank you, Dina. With that, we are concluded with our presentation and are open for questions or comments.
Thank you. I'm exhausted. No, just listening to everything going on in the district.
Wow.
Lots of moving parts and lots of activities focused on that mission of, or that vision of our students will lead and shape the future. So, comments, Director Mitchell, shall we start with you?
Yes,
Comments or questions?
Yes, thank you. Director Lancaster, or Dr. Lancaster, I'm sorry that I interrupted you. It came out of the fact that my daughter did say, if a shooter does threaten a school and they know where the evacuation plan is, why don't they just go to the evacuation site? And I'm like, because I don't think that's most of their intention. So it was sort of a, whoa. So thank you. Apologize for that. Jeff, I'm pretty sure that John Lovick wishes he had not said hello to me at Costco on Sunday, because I did thank him for his service, but then put in a heavy lift. So doing my part. And Dana, I do support all your STEM work, because I think every building, airport, hotel I've been in, we need Otis repairmen, it appears, for all the escalators that break all the time. And 2 airports today both had broken escalators where men were working. The Westin had a broken escalator where a young man was working. But I mean, that's a skill that still needs to be around. And I completely believe it falls into STEM. And then, Brian, I have one question. Slide 17 about the rollout of one-to-one.
Yes.
School years. Is that the year before the year that they're in the schools?
No, that's the year they're in this.
Because
I get what you're
Jackson High
saying.
School was this school year that they
Right,
got their
so
one-to-one.
so it's the year before.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the preparation.
It's the preparation year.
Right, so next year will be 1920 school year, will be the 6,000 or so devices for, it's the preparation for the rollout.
Okay, that's what I wanted to just make sure that I was clear. Thank you. But I do appreciate all of this, because even though we hear this stuff all the time, there was some new learning today, so I really do appreciate all of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Mason, do you have questions?
I don't have any questions or comments, but excellent presentation. Thank you for all the great information.
Thanks.
Director Lasay.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Great presentation, and it's great always to be brought up to speed. I have a question about the LMS Canvas. You mentioned that 50% have just started now in our school. They got the professional development last summer. Are we anticipating that this summer the remaining 50% will be receiving their professional development?
Yeah, we'll continue to offer summer offerings for the high school staff, and it's taking place throughout the year, and that will continue. And as I continue to update the board, you'll see the number of teachers utilizing Canvas improving as well. But yeah, there'll be more professional development this summer. That will be ongoing.
After that, it will be ongoing, because
Yes.
I do understand how difficult it is to learn something that you yet haven't really realized how to use it. And so my concern is that at which point it will be used with fidelity.
Right. And we will continue to offer the professional development ongoing throughout the year, every summer. That will be part of our continuous PD plan.
I understand. Thank you. Another question I do have is on cybersecurity. Every time I come into the district office with my little laptop and I log in and it says uploading, and then it shuts down my computer and I can't use it. So that's great. We are on the network. But what happens when I am in an airport, in the middle of nowhere, waiting to go to a conference, and I'm on the computer?
Same thing as when you try to play a video in the boardroom. You can call for tech help.
And I can't call for tech help. What happens as far as the capability of receiving malware? And at that point in time, I'm not a techie, so I don't know, well, you're still being protected, or you're not being protected. We have a lot of students who are going home with their laptop devices and logging in, finding sites where they can get information for their research papers. What happens to those individuals if by chance they lock in on something, a malware or phishing out there?
Right. So the advanced threat protection is protecting the network. So even when a student is on their computer at home, there's still the filters and all of the requirements that are part of them while they're in the district protect them at home as well. So it shouldn't matter whether you're inside the network or out. That advanced threat protection continues to be there to ensure that what comes in to your email doesn't infect your computer and then the network.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And one question regarding early learning and post-secondary readiness. I'm all for removing the barriers for student success. That's wonderful. And I'm very concerned with how are we in relationship with other districts who have early learning centers established within their district. Are we doing, how would you compare what we're doing versus those who currently have early learning centers?
That is a very good question, and I could speak for minutes and minutes and minutes about that. We are collaborating with them, number one. We've got a robust P3 partnership in the county, and if you recall, in January, you saw all of those icons. There was probably almost 24 icons with early learning providers and government nonprofit agencies. So we are in the thick of things when it comes to collaboration. In terms of visiting those early learning centers and seeing what and how they operationalize their plans because they have a physical site. We've done many of those visits across the state, and visited some sites that have been the most heralded in the last few years through and supported through capital bonds. So we've learned what it is that they can do in housing, but we've not let the lack of physical space to date stop us, right? So we've got.
What would be the next step for us? What would be our graduation point for the next step?
Our graduation point would be to find every seat we possibly can to support ECAP because it's a program that works. And so to try to meet that demand, but understanding that there are to date about 600 kids or so that are underserved in our community that are looking for high quality preschool and don't currently have it. So that is the North Star for us.
Okay.
It's about doing what we can with what we have, and what we have are a really, really strong set of strategies. What we don't have is a whole lot of permanent building capacity, as you know.
We're talking 600 kids.
The magic number at that symposium a few years ago was 900. We are currently supporting 320 or so kids in ECAP.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Again, I just always like to remind everyone there's a wonderful addition to this presentation that describes in detail more of the work going on in the schools. I had one question, and I apologize if I've missed this in some documents, but sound supports is mentioned on slide 13, and sound support coaches in all 26 schools. What is sound supports?
Ah, we got her out of her seat.
And also caught me talking. Okay. So sound support. So currently all of our schools are going to have full implementation of PBIS by the end of this school year. So it's been more of a struggle for those schools that had the system of Make Your Day. So what we've done is, because some schools were farther along in the implementation process, they each have a coach for their buildings, and we were hoping to phase that out this year, but it's obvious that schools are going to continue to need support for at least another year.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are done. Thank you again very much, everyone, for participating in this strategic plan mid-year progress report.
And thank you for your comments.
So we will take a 15-minute break. Is that enough time for you to fly your?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will return, what does that make it? At 6:40, about 6:47.
Yeah.
Okay, we will move on with Section 11, information discussion. There are no items. Same for Section 12, unfinished business. So we'll move to Section 13, new business. And we have some reading of proposed revisions to some policies. Larry?
Yeah. Well, proposed revisions to policy 3600 student records are provided this evening as a result of recent revisions made to policy 3143, district notification of juvenile offenders, and policy 3144, release of information concerning student sex and kidnapping offenders. Based on the WASDA model policy, these revisions include minor adjustments regarding the information that is retained in a student's cumulative file, including official court records that are required for retention and transference to a receiving school in the event a student transfers. The proposed revisions to policy 3600 student records have been reviewed by Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and the Superintendent's Cabinet.
Any questions, comments on this policy? Proposed revisions? Director Lassane?
I have one question, and I know it was minor, but I didn't want to, it's just very minor. But it says here, the enrolling school shall be notified that the official transcript is being withheld due to unpaid fees or fine. If a student transfers and they're going and attending school, will this prohibit a kid from getting registered in the school they're being transferred to and into the proper classes necessary for that kid to continue on?
No.
Okay.
This really only comes into play as the student is trying to finish and graduate, where a fee would impact in any way or deter. As you probably recall through previous revisions to student fees and fines that we've revised previously, such fees and fines can be either worked off or waived by the building principal. Okay. So no, that does not create a barrier situation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
No further questions. We'll move this to next meeting for a second reading and approval.
Revisions to policy 4000, school community relations, are proposed this evening, precipitating from board discussion at the beginning of this school year, resulting in changes to the current policy to incorporate greater family engagement that reflects the core values of the district. Revisions to policy 4000, school community relations, have been reviewed by Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and the Superintendent's Cabinet. And as you can see in the first and second paragraphs, the focus of this particular revision is about engaging with diverse family populations within the district to acknowledge our core values of equity and community engagement.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments or questions, directors? Hearing none, we'll move this to the next meeting for second reading. And policy 6500.
Proposed revisions to policy 6500, risk management, are provided to include the addition of language regarding responsibilities for managing the risk program, identifies the tort claim process, and establishes a common tort claim form. This particular form can be found on our website under the Departments section and General Counsel. In addition, the legal reference was added to RCW 496-020, tortious conduct of local governmental entities and their agents, claims, presentment, and filing. The proposed revisions to policy 6500, risk management, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Questions or comments on these revisions? We will move this to the next meeting for a second reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is 1304, approval of Longfellow and Annex building surplus materials. I will mention that Director Nankar has joined us by phone. Can you hear us, Director Nankar? Okay?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can, Carol. Thank you.
Okay. I think just as a little background on this item, we'll let you know, I don't know if you were not connected, so in public comments, we did have comments from 8 members, community members, regarding the Longfellow building and the move to surplus items. Overall, the message was the board should not be in a hurry to act on that. And had comments from a former board member who actually volunteered his services to help us explore alternatives to demolition. So I just wanted you to understand that we did have a lot of public comment regarding this agenda item.
Thank you, Yara.
Mr. Gunn?
Okay, thank you. Tonight, we are asking the board to declare certain architectural items in the Longfellow and Annex buildings to be surplus, thereby allowing us to salvage these items from the buildings. And ultimately, our plan is to offer them for sale through a salvage contractor for sale to the public. It's a simple agenda item, a simple request with a very long history, as you know. In this presentation, and I'm planning to make it fairly brief, I will cover a brief chronology of the Longfellow building itself, talk to you about the development of the property use matrix and what that shows in relation to the Longfellow building, some of the efforts we went through to market and negotiate a sale of the building that were not successful, the design and permitting and bidding process that we went through in 2017 and 18, and then talk to you about the kinds of resources the district is continuing to spend, and we did a summary as of July of 2018. I did not update that more recently just because we've done it so many times. I thought you could get the idea from what we've shown there. So chronology, 1902 to 2018, the building the Longfellow building is 108 years old. The Annex building is 62 years old. It was closed as a school in 1971, converted to a central support facility, and has been used as that up until the time we vacated it in 2013 to move into this building. In 2007, a programming study was completed by district staff on the idea of consolidating the central support functions of the district into one administration building. In 2008, we followed that up with a feasibility study looking at a variety of options and potential costs. One of those options that we looked at was the Longfellow building, to stay in that building, to expand it, to modernize it. And we also looked at the Colby office building to do the same thing too. We looked at other options. I could go through them. There were 7 or 8 of them. The board at the time selected this site here as the solution for a central office. One of the reasons the decision did not go with the Longfellow building was the high cost of renovating the building. Once you put all that money into it, the amount of square footage that you would have available was it wasn't cost efficient. It would be you'd be money ahead to tear the building down, build a new building for the same cost. That doesn't, of course, recognize the potential historical preservation options that we have still. So anyway, moving on. So the board approved those, by the way, the feasibility study, the idea of moving here to this building at that time. 2013, Community Resource Center opened. We moved all the staff into this building from the other ones. That brought up the question of what to do with all of our properties. The 2 big ones, of course, coming up for potential redevelopment or reuse or sale were the properties on the Colby Avenue and the Longfellow building. It brought up a big question in the minds of the community about all these other properties we have potentially around, and there was quite a large process we went through to get community input on the potential future use of all of those properties. We had a lot of hundreds of comments. So from that, the property use matrix was developed, and that indicated that the future use of the Longfellow building was to sell, lease, I think it was actually sale, lease, or demolish. And then this idea of converting it to parking was because it is a parking lot around there. I think at some point I've always thought that it could and would be used by future generations by the district as something else, some other building site opportunity. It would not probably be a parking lot forever is what I had always thought. At any rate, we went through marketing and negotiations, not successful. And then in 2017 and 18, went through with board concurrence a process to design, permit, and go out to bid on a demolition project to remove the building and restore the site. So that was kind of in brief form, a chronology of the Longfellow building. I wanted to show you the property use matrix. Again, we looked at all of our properties that we own, by the way, both those for schools that we currently use for schools, plus those others. All of our properties are listed in this property use matrix. We show current, midterm, and long-term use of the facilities. The three bullets under the parameters for sale or lease are really important because those really set the tone of the marketing effort that we went through on the Longfellow building. We talked with the board on a variety of occasions and really made it clear in our documentation that we put out to potential buyers or lease lessors of the property. The parameters we were looking for is that whatever use we were going to allow to sell to somebody or lease to them it had to be compatible with the stadium use. That means all the functions that happen at the stadium, all the kids, all the community events, all of those. Another one had to be, if possible, if feasible, to preserve the Longfellow building. We were told on day one by our real estate representatives that this building would not be feasible for somebody to purchase and restore historically. That in order for that to be financially feasible to a buyer, we would probably have to give them, as part of the deal, a portion of our property beyond a reasonable parking lot size. And then also we wanted to have retention or at least shared use of the parking on the site for the stadium. So that kind of covers the property use matrix. The marketing and negotiations process, I show 2015 to 18, I think was actually like 2.5 years. There was an active period of marketing and then a period where it was inactive but still listed. We were still getting phone calls. We ended up receiving 2 offers that were written responses to our request for letters of interest. They were not determined to be financially viable. We got one from the Everett Historical Museum, or Everett Museum of History. It appeared to be it was a bona fide offer. It's just over the course of an 8-month period, through a series of offers and counteroffers, it was determined that they really did not have the financial strength that we were looking for in a buyer. And it also turned out at near the end of that time period that they made an offer that we could not meet because of the timelines for short platting the property, for subdividing it from the rest of the stadium. And also they were looking for some property rights that would limit the height of a building on our property at some point. At any rate, so we went through the process to market it and try to negotiate. We then went through the design, permitting, and building process. In April 17, a final, what we call an MDNS, Mitigated Determination of Non-Significance, was issued listing of a number of mitigation measures that were necessary to preserve the historic and cultural aspects of the building. We've done all of these now, except for the salvaging. We're asking you to approve that tonight. We have designed and have prepared to go out to bid on this historical marker. We have moved the display items that will go into the display case out here in the hallway. I'm not sure if they're there yet, but we'll get them there. We've provided the documentation, drawings, photographs, and history. We've prepared all that already. We hired a consultant to help us do that. We've inquired of the city, fire department, and the historical commission as to whether they're interested in any of those objects. The fire department would like one of the sirens, so that's on the list. In May of 17, the board approved unanimously authorization to approve these measures as well as call for bids, which we did so. Unfortunately, as you all know, we came in over the estimate, and the project has really kind of been on hold since then. The operational costs are ongoing. We've talked about those on a number of occasions. The $9 million initially and $5.3 million over the next 20 years to upgrade the buildings is really an estimate based on continuing the use of the building. It did not assume a full conversion to a different potential use of the building. We've tried to put some numbers to that, and we certainly could, but it would be far in excess of those numbers that we were seeing there. So having said all that, we are now requesting your approval, your consideration for approval of surplusing the items listed in the attachment and board docs plus an old red fire siren. And by the way, if you have questions related to the process we went through to market and negotiate for the purchase or sale of the property, we have our two real estate consultants here tonight. Michael Finch and with Century Pacific, and Cynthia Byrne with Long Bay Enterprises. They're, I believe, sitting with right back there. If you would like to ask them any questions as well. With that, I'd like your consideration for approval of the surplusing.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn. Should we go ahead and, so the recommended action is that the Board of Directors, acting as a committee of the whole, approve as surplus the list of materials, plus an old red fire alarm siren from the Longfellow and Annex buildings.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the recommended actions listed, and then we follow through with discussion prior to the vote.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Director Lassane to approve the motion and seconded by Director Mitchell. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Director Mitchell, sorry, Director Lassane.
One, I am very much aware that the district went through an extensive marketing process to prepare us for this point in time. Is it possible to hear from those that did market it, the actions that they took, or should we wait for further discussion to then come back and ask for questions? How should we handle that? Yes, I did.
I think
for
you
the
have,
record. I'm just calling for the record.
I would say if you have questions, now would be the time to address them.
Okay. I do believe that the district has gone through an extensive marketing process. It was a strong process to evaluate the potential benefits of use for the building for educational purposes. And the process started in 2011. I was not on the board at that particular point in time, but when I did arrive on the board, we did go through some of the matrix use of the buildings that we owned. It was very extensive. We walked through each parcel that the district owns, be it the parcel down at 180th, the parcel off of Bothell Everett Highway, the Colby campus that we had at one time, this particular process. So I am very much aware and was involved in that process. The marketing process also has been documented to include impact on the neighborhood as far as revitalization, in a sense that we looked at what the possibilities were, or what the possibilities could have been for the use of the building. And we also stress that as stewards of public educational funds, that it had to be in partnership with education as well as compatible with any educational program that we offered. And one of those educational programs that we offer is the use of Memorial Stadium. I realize that the overall poor condition of the Longfellow building is there. I realize the significant interior, exterior, mechanical, electrical, ADA requirements, life safety investments that are required in order for the Longfellow building to be marketable to another entity, as well as to allow us the opportunity to repair it, to continue to use it as an educational benefit. I understand that situation. I also understand the need for future use in the educational aspect, because I too, like you, do not believe that it is only going to be used as a parking lot. I believe that there are other future educational uses for the property. I believe the focus should be on how we can bring the history of the past to the present in a memorial vice a building, just so that we can continue to honor the past. But I believe at this particular point in time, we need to make sure that the building is still part of Everett Public Schools and can be continued to use for educational purposes. And at this particular point in time, I believe that moving forward with the salvage operation is in the best interest of the educational purposes for this building.
Okay, oh, gosh, this is so hard. Thank you. I so too thought that this land could be used for something else someday. I did not see it as a parking lot. I saw it as a potential land use site. I personally did not grow up in this community. I serve this community, but I live south of here. I do appreciate the stories. I appreciate the Herald. I appreciate everything that's been said about this building. But I had, and this is just, I agree, I do not see the urgency in doing this, since the decision was made to build this building, that something was going to be done with that, you know, going on 8 years ago now. We keep looking at this. Had a meeting at a pediatric group in Tacoma this week, or last week, at an old building across from Multi-Care, where it's a pediatric heart clinic that I walked up the stairs because the elevator was broken and they're on the 4th floor. So it was good exercise for me. But it was state-of-the-art inside. And they said it's been a multi-years investment for them to make it state-of-the-art. And so it's you know, the parents of those sick kids don't have to worry about any kind of mold, asbestos, or anything that might be there, because they've made it all glass and chrome and beautiful. But then just talking to community members, and I appreciate everybody who reached out to me personally, and to hear their stories, and the idea of what we've done with the bond committee, having the community help us decide what's in the bond, because we serve them and they help us. You know, we've failed so many bonds. We've heard better stories about bonds, about communities that let the community decide the bond, because they they can garner the support. I appreciate if some sort of community discussion. I want to be careful with the fact that I heard two different things about giving it, and we can't give it, as far as I know, to anybody. Is that true? We can't give away our public stuff? I mean, we could say what we're doing with getting everything, but I don't think we can give the building. And I don't think that there's anything inherently dangerous about homeless people. But since there are a lot of youth at that facility, I do have concerns with mixing the two, which is the unknowns. But I guess what I'm really getting at is, Dr. Cohn, you have wanted early learning in this district, and thinking about a facility in this district, wherever it might be, and any kind of remodel, I think, of $8 million, $10 million, whatever it has to be, would have to go up for a vote because that would be bond money. I think that there's a push nationally for early learning. I think there's a push in the state for early learning. We know we have a need in this Everett community for early learning. And I just think that the sentimentality for this building that I don't have, if the community would allow us to keep the exterior, but maybe make the interior what we would need, and we would need the estimations for how much that would cost for whatever it is that we decide to do with that building for future learning. And I think that the years that it was in service as a school, I don't believe it's practical for a school, but I do believe that it needs to maybe become something else.
May I comment one more time? Oh,
Just
Director
let everyone
Nankar.
speak first, and then Director Nankar, do you have comments or questions? Discussion?
I am curious to hear the rest of the comments on this as well, and I appreciate both Director Sen and Director Mitchell's comments so far. And I ask this being the youngest member on the board, not having much history on it, other than what's been provided in written form. It was a difficult decision. I've been going back and forth, and I see both pros and cons on both ends, valid reasons on both ends. And I've also reached out to various people who I respected members of the community to get the feedback, not being from here, to get a sense of what is at stake. So again, both sides, keeping it as well as salvaging it, salvaging parts of it, which takes us down one path. It's like I'm repeating myself. It's both sides have valid. I guess where things would be so much easier for me would be in terms of making a decision if we've got a concrete plan to repurpose the building for an educational use, rather than just the word out there is parking. And that, I think, that's the most, that's what's sort of where I'm stuck at.
Okay.
I think that's all I have. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Director Mason?
Yeah, I'll speak. So, Director Nankar, I sort of had my say earlier in the evening when the folks who came to offer public comment were here. So I used my board comment opportunity to share my opinions about the Longfellow. But I think you have a pretty good grasp of what those are. I will say at the end of the day that I would like to one day be proud of the decision to preserve history and this building, rather than explain to our community why we have demolished a building and then we go out and ask for a bond to refurbish and build new buildings. I think that that is maybe an oversimplification of really what a bond looks like, but I think that at the end of the day, that's how many voters feel with their tax dollars. I also think that I was really pleased to see the community support tonight and also hear individuals offering their help and their expertise, many of which have extensive expertise in this area, to look at alternate solutions. And I feel like we would do a disservice to our community to turn that offer down when we have not spent time reaching out to these people and asking for their engagement in this process. And it's a very complex issue. It's a very emotional issue for a lot of people. And so at this point in time, well, everyone, I've already spoken enough. Go ahead. Thank you.
And Director Nankar, I also had shared some thoughts during board comments, which I had not originally planned to do, but I think my comments just sort of supported what we heard from the public tonight about we don't need to be in a real rush to make this decision. I gave examples of other schools that have been closed and have been vacant for 10 years before they were either sold and repurposed, or I also gave examples of some schools that we actually were able to use bond monies to renovate, one being Sequoia High School, which I think is nicely done, Everett High School as well, and the Little Theater. I just believe this move to start the surplusing of items would just be the end of Longfellow building, because it would diminish much of the historic value that it has. So I'm just feeling, as Director Mason said, we've had lots of volunteers tonight to help us sort of sort through this issue, and again, people with a lot of expertise in this area. And, you know, ultimately, demolition or of the building may be the answer, but I do feel like we have not given it proper investigation or taken that path to just look at alternatives paths right now. So I just am not supporting the move tonight to move forward with the surplus, is my position. And Director Lassane?
I understand it is a very emotional item for some. And I do understand the nature of the building. I've looked at what is taking place inside. I've looked at the structural integrity of the building. And I also have listened to what the district has provided as far as what it would take to bring that building up to today's code. It is not ADA compliant. There are no elevators. There are only stairs. I do believe that we are making the right decision to salvage the equipments now before they become too far gone as far as being useful to anyone who would like to purchase that material. You have a lot of water damage, you have a lot of asbestos, you have a lot of hazardous waste material. What you can salvage, you need to salvage now. I also look at the building or the property as being necessary for educational purposes. It may be a parking lot today. It may not be a parking lot in 10 years. It may be an educational facility like an early learning center, but that building cannot be an early learning center. It would not qualify as such. It would require way too much funds in order to bring it to that state. My concern today is that we need to make sure that we keep it as an educational use, but we have to prepare for the future. We have to get it to that state where we can make the decision down the road, and they can salvage the equipment that they can, you know, the material that they can salvage now. But we've got to be forward thinking. And I think by sitting on it, we've been in this process since 2012, and this is 2019. That's 7 years that I've been on the board. We've been through this discussion before. Boards before me have been involved in it since 2007. And the decision that they made and the decision that has taken place over the 7 years I've been on board was to be able to continue to use it as an educational facility or the property in an educational, and the building isn't there. It cannot be used as such. We need to salvage the material currently now. Will it affect the bond in the future? I respectfully, I've heard what you said, but I do not believe it would impact. Because of the state of the building that it is in now, we are going to be asked, why didn't you correct something? Why did you sit on it? Why didn't you go ahead and demolish it when you could have and it didn't cost as much? And then prepare for new construction in the future. To bring that building up to 2019, 2020, 2021 is going to be very expensive. And we would not be able to get that kind of money from our community to do that and still maintain it as an educational use building.
Sure. I just want to clarify the salvation. Currently, the red fire sirens are the only items that are wanted from the salvation by anybody in our community. So that the items that are being salvaged are going to second use for their sale to whomever wants to purchase them. And the district, I believe, is getting $1,200 for it. So there's no there's no loss of profit or money waiting on the salvage.
No, but if somebody wants those doors or windows in the condition that they are in now, whatever renovation work that they're doing, they need to get that now, because in a couple of years, it may not be in the same condition that it is in now.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Gunn, can you clarify, when we had the property listed, a potential purchaser did not have to keep the property, maintain an educational use for it, correct?
Correct.
And the property, according to the historic property report that we had prepared, it actually is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, which I know enables purchasers to get tax credits and probably access other financing vehicles to be able to rehab a building like that. And I realize we're talking about sale again now, but we did hear from some community members as well that, you know, something like a use like McMenamins has made of other buildings would be potentially an acceptable use for that property. And I guess to follow up on that question, I'm wondering, I've seen such differing statistics. How long was this property actually on the commercial broker CBA listing service? I've seen from January to May, which is 5 months. I've seen January to April. I'm just wondering what was the time period it was actually listed and available for people to look it up on the web and
Sure.
view it?
I do not have that answer. I'll see if one of our real estate consultants can fill me in.
Thank you.
Come on up, Michael. I'm going to introduce Michael Finch, Century Pacific.
Hi, Michael Finch, Century Pacific.
Can you speak up?
Sorry, Michael
We've
Finch,
met.
Century Pacific. It was on the Commercial Brokers Association for approximately 5 months. It was on our website for many more months beyond that. And I believe we left the property signs up for, I think, close to 9 months or a year.
Something like that.
Any other questions for me?
So 5 months on the commercial
Brokers Association.
listing. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Finch, may I ask another question?
Yes.
When you look at a building that is 101 years old and in some categories historic, and it is in the kind of disrepair that it is now, how much interest is out there by people to modify a building for today's use?
Well, that's a complex question, and I've not been in the building for a number of years, so I couldn't speak to the current condition. I can tell you that the economics would be challenging given the previous cost estimates of $9 million, given the 25,000 square foot roof building that it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there other items for discussion before we call for the vote?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So, let me try and articulate this properly. Should we not come to a resolution right now, is there anything stopping us from sort of revisiting this decision in a year's time when we've got a strategy in place? Or has that ship sailed?
The salvage, but the demolition.
This salvage.
So if we approve the motion tonight, the salvaging of the buildings will occur. If the motion is not approved, the salvaging will not move ahead. However, we still have the resolution that we approved for demolition. So, but I think we would be back to perhaps in next steps. I'm not sure. Maybe Dr. Cohn, you can shed some light on
Could you
the two
ask
scenarios.
the question again, please?
Say the question, say the result of where we do nothing based on the vote. Does that remove the opportunity or the option for revisiting this again after a year once all these concerns or strategies or whatever they might be are put in place?
I would suggest that you could delay this if you wanted to. There were three elements to the work that we were doing in anticipation of your next action. One is this salvage. The other is trying to get all the asbestos out of the building, and the other is removing the old fuel tank. We can still remove asbestos. We can still remove the fuel tank. I believe that the SEPA process that we agreed to includes this salvage work prior to your action for demolition. Mike, am I correct in that recollection?
Yes.
So we would need to bring you a resolution if you were going to look at demolition, including the salvage work. One of the reasons we believe the amount was so much last time we brought it to you was it included all these other elements, and that presents higher risk for a contractor. So, in fact, you could let the building sit there for 100 years if you wanted to.
My question to you is, if we were to salvage the material today and approve that, we would still have to come back and ask or move forward to demolish the building if that is what we so choose.
You would still need to approve a bid to demolish the building.
Right.
So the salvage work can be done.
The salvage work could be done.
Right, and anything of value can be
Taken out,
rescued,
and then
right?
those individuals who want those items would have the opportunity to purchase them.
That's right.
I think some
And-
of us,
Director Mason?
some of us recognize that the move to salvage is the first phase of demolition, though. And by doing that, we do move the building in that direction, and it prohibits us from doing some of the work that the community has brought forward, or it compromises it, I guess is a good way to put it.
May I ask, how would that compromise it?
Because you're gutting the building of all historic value.
In what way?
By removing things like cool marble slabs that are part of the construction and the architecture.
And doors and windows and chandeliers and...
I don't believe you have those kind of things there. I don't believe you have
They're on the list.
chandeliers.
They're on the list.
They're on the list, the demolish list.
They are on the surplus list.
Or the surplus list, thank you.
Director Nankar?
Yeah, I guess the path I was sort of alluding to or sort of leaning towards suggesting was, rather than even get to this point of, I know the discussion on the consent agenda is not actually the demolition of the building, but the sale of the salvage items. But even before proceeding to down this path, perhaps take a step back and there's a possibility of revisiting this a year down the road after establishing a more concrete plan in terms of identifying what we would do with that building, whether it be demolition, not repurposing, so to speak, but then rebuilding something else on
property.
Yeah.
I believe that if the motion does not pass tonight, it does open the door to the possibilities of looking at those other options and examining them. Okay. Any other questions or comments? So I will just restate the motion or the recommended action that the Board of Directors, acting as a committee of the whole, approves as surplus the list of materials plus an old red fire alarm siren from the Longfellow and Annex buildings. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. Motion is defeated, does not carry. Did you hear Director Nankar was a no? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda is item 1305, approval of delegation of authority to search consultant. And this is part of the action too, right? And there's
what I'd like you to do is go ahead and work on this item, and then I think there's a parallel action that I think follows that with regard to my attendance at meetings.
Okay.
Which I would like you to consider.
To follow afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to my agenda. So this is a motion, an action to appoint another member of the board to act on my behalf along with the superintendent search firm Ray and Associates. The recommended action reads that the board of directors, having approved a contract for Ray and Associates to serve as the board's search consultant firm to conduct a superintendent search, delegates the authority normally given to the board president under policy 1210 to act as the board's primary contact, and the authority to provide direction and speak on behalf of the board to Ray and Associates with respect to the superintendent search to a specific person, limiting such authority only to the scope of action in this motion. So this is necessary to be able to share the responsibility, or actually assign the responsibility of dealing with our superintendent search firm. So I would like to go ahead and suggest or nominate that Caroline Mason would be the contact person. She is well-positioned and very experienced in these areas, and would make a wonderful spokesperson on behalf of the board.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Does this mean with our meeting last week that we had with them, where he sort of said, Carol, you would be my person I'd be talking to through all this stuff, it would be now Caroline is the person that he would be talking through about meetings, plans, calendars, how are things going, what's happening, and you would be the key point of contact to communicate back to us or the like instead of Carol? Or is it the two of you? If you can't be there, then it goes to Caroline, or is it?
Caroline would be the main contact, and I think would communicate to all of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And they did request that we have one
person
point of contact.
And he kept saying you.
Which makes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So they wanted somebody other than yourself?
No, I'm just feeling like between work responsibilities and school board responsibilities and recognizing the importance of this search, I think that we need to have someone who's better positioned to do that than myself. So
thank you, Caroline.
Is there?
I move.
Is there, would you like to make that motion, Nankar, or Director Nankar, sorry?
What is that? I'm sorry.
Were you making that motion?
Yes.
Okay, so is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Nankar and seconded by Director Mitchell, the recommended action, which I will not read again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
And I would ask that you take a companion action, that the board excuses the superintendent from the following special board meetings scheduled for March 6, March 27, April 30, May 14, May 20 through 21, and May 28 through 30, or dates to which they may subsequently be moved.
The reason for that is...
Well, I'm supposed to be at all of your meetings, and I don't think these are meetings that I need to be at, and you already excused me from one, so I'd like to make them all one part of the record.
So these are meetings with our superintendent search and other functions surrounding the superintendent search, yes.
Plus one conference trip. And
Okay.
then we could, of course, move that special meeting, but I just want to make sure that we've got your blessing for me to be gone.
The conference trip is where? NSBA?
No, different one. No, it's a different one.
Wassa?
No, I think it's a tech-related conference that we've been invited to.
So does she need to read that, or?
I can do it again.
Yeah, so-
That the Board of Directors excuses the superintendent from the following special board meetings scheduled for, or from the board meeting scheduled for March 6, March 27, April 30, May 14, May 20 through 21, and May 28 through 30, 2019, or dates to which those meetings may subsequently be moved.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Mitchell and seconded by Director Mason to
Quickly seconded.
excuse Superintendent Cohn from the meetings previously mentioned. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, item 14.1 is your special meeting for March 6th. That's the Everett Public Schools Foundation Annual Benefit Breakfast tomorrow morning. We have published that meeting because we sort of expect you all to be there. Item 14.2.
I'm sorry. Exactly when we need to be there? Walk into the doors versus when breakfast is served.
The invitation says 7 to 8:30.
Oh,
that got sent out.
Dinner at 7:30. I mean, breakfast at 7:30 and networking between 7 and 7:30.
Breakfast is at 7 and the program begins at 7:30.
7:30.
So we want to be there a little bit before 7.
Doors open at 6:45. Breakfast is buffet, so there's a little bit of time
Okay.
for you to get your plate.
Okay.
But you need to be in your seats with the program
Thank you
starting
for
at
the
7:30.
clarification.
Program starting at 7:30. Gosh.
Okay. Your next special meeting is that same day, March 6th. It's your superintendent search consultant planning meeting. Both of these are on your calendar, I believe. March 12 is your board development workshop. It is a morning meeting. And remember, we made some adjustments to the next several meetings based on your plans for superintendent search and some of the other things that we dropped off the calendar and such. March 19 is your regular meeting. You have career college life readiness indicators as your strategic progress reporting item. You have general operating business expected for that agenda, including a detention center interlocal agreement, an authorization to issue contracts, a capital budget extension, an Aquasox field agreement, 2 recognitions, one for our wellness program and one for the MLK SA Award winners. You have several policy review items for second reading, as well as we expect 4 policy items, 3 policy items for first reading, plus your fines, fees, and charges that we're bringing to you because you have some field use fees in particular that you need to act on that are not included within the normal CPI types of increases delegated to the superintendent. That's it for your upcoming regular meetings on this agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Cohn. There is no executive session this evening. So that leads us to adjourn.
Adjourn.